There's been a lot of comparison just in the media this year with 2008 and 1968 with the presidential elections and the turmoil within society and things like that. Do you think that's a fair comparison this time around? Do you think that people are ready for a change at this point, or?
I think there's a lot of close parallels between what was happening in 1968 and what's happening today. There was a war on that nobody really understood how we had gotten into, and it was a war in some ways of not as blatantly one of imperialism as this one. We had a domestic economy that was collapsing. We had violence in the streets. And so, many of those parallels are apropos today. I think there's a strong desire for a revolutionary change. And, I think Barack Obama is a transcendent political leader. But there's going to be tremendous resistance to his election that comes from all of the power centers of our society. And today, those power centers are very well organized. You have a military-industrial complex that is not going to want to see him elected. You have the media that is largely controlled by the right, by the far right. 90% of radio, talk radio, is now controlled by the far right, and that's where 30% of Americans get their news. 22% get their news from cable news, mainly Fox News, which is, of course, very extremely far right. And then most other Americans, the principal news source, except for the very young, is the traditional corporate networks, ABC, NBC, CBS, and CNN, which have no ideology except for their own pocketbooks. That ideology is coterminous with the ideology of the Republican power, of the Republican Party, which is in favor of all these consolidations that they want. And they don't do things that are going to challenge their capacity to earn advertising revenue, which comes from the biggest corporations in our country.
If John McCain gets elected, do you think that you'll be facing even more challenges than before?
Yeah, I think it's going to be business as usual. The people that he surrounded himself with are people who are deeply committed to not really changing the way that things are done in this country, and I think we need really a dramatic change right now to restore our democracy.
If you could give one piece of advice to just your average person on the street who is, wants to be able to go fishing with their family and their friends, what they can do to
the most important thing an individual can do is to get involved in the political process. It's more important than recycling your garbage or using fuel-efficient cars or compact fluorescent light bulbs. It's important to integrate an environmental ethic into our lives, but it's not going to change the planet. It's not going to save the planet. Individual consumer choices just aren't. There's 8% of consumers that are affected by ethical choices when they shop. And so you'll never change the planet through that kind of activity. So the most important thing people can do is to get involved with the political process and to get rid of all these rotten politicians who are just indentured servants for the big polluters and for agents of corruption and subversion of our democracy.